Both Ashby de la Zouch Castle and Kirby Muxloe Castle were once owned by William Hastings, the first Baron Hastings and Lord Chamberlain to King Edward IV of England. William Hastings was born in or about the year 1430 at his family's manor in the village of Kirby Muxloe. William's father, Sir Leonard Hastings, was a retainer, that being an aide and confidant to Richard, the 3rd Duke of York. And as such, Leonard had firmly nailed his colours to the wall during the War of the Roses, a conflict between the rival dynastic families of York and Lancaster that ran over a 30-year period between 1455 and 1487. Not to get into too much detail, the War of the Roses was a conflict over who should be the rightful successor to King Henry VI. Both parties, the Lancastrians and the Yorks, did have legitimate claim to the throne, and it was not the case that the conflict materialised because anyone thought that King Henry seemed near to death. He wasn't and was still very much alive for almost a decade after Edward of York was crowned king, but because of resentment to the right of succession following the death of King Edward III some 58 years earlier in 1377. King Edward III had 5 sons. His eldest son, Edward the Black Prince, would have ascended to the throne following his father's death, but didn't on account of him dying. But the Black Prince himself had a son, Richard, who after Edward III's death in 1377 became King Richard II. King Richard, as a result of this, then had a fraught relationship with his uncles, the children of Edward III, who despite Richard's legitimacy viewed that the crown should have passed to one of them and not King Edward's grandson. This disharmony amongst the descendants of Edward III contributed then to the ill feeling and righteous belief that became installed in the houses of Lancaster and York, and so led to the War of the Roses. Anyway, back to William Hastings. William, like his father, also supported the Yorkist cause, and for his actions at the Battle of Towton in 1461, William was knighted by Richard of York's heir, the future King Edward IV. William, now a knight and after whose recent exploits in battle had earned him the favour of the new king, was soon appointed as Lord Chamberlain to the royal household, a position of trust with the king that also carried considerable respect amongst the other lords. Naturally, with these positions, additional honours in the form of money and land were soon to follow, and William was given a significant amount of land in the Midlands that had been confiscated from the late enemies of King Edward. The most noted and profitable of these given to William was the manor at Ashby, the site on which now stands Ashby de la Zouch Castle. Prior to William of Hastings being awarded Ashby by King Edward, the manor and its lands had been in the effective control of James Butler, the Earl of Ormond and the Earl of Wiltshire. Butler had only taken control of Ashby the year before, and so did not get much of a chance to enjoy it or reap the benefits from it, since, as a Lancastrian supporter, he was executed following the Battle of Towton. Although winning against the Lancastrians at Towton, Edward's reign was not to go unchallenged, and 9 years later, in 1470, he, along with William Hastings, fled England for Bruges in the Low Countries. But not to be deterred, while in Bruges, the King and William planned their return to England, and on the 14th of March 1471, King Edward landed at Ravenspur on the Humber estuary, where soon after he was joined by a force of 3,000 men raised in Leicester by William. King Edward was then soon able to re-establish himself as monarch, and was public in his gratitude to William. Still as Lord Chamberlain to the royal household, William increased his standing with the court and became de facto vice-regent in the English Midlands. William's influence did not just extend to the English courtiers, but was also known by continental leaders to have much influence in the king's decision-making. The Duke of Burgundy, for example, paid William 1,000 écus in 1471 for William's favour, i.e. that is, putting in a good word with King Edward on his behalf for mine to them becoming allies, which they later did. And in 1475, the King of France, Louis XI, even offered William a pension of 2,000 gold crowns. On the face of it, this all sounds very suspect, and one would naturally assume that William was profiteering from his position. However, William was very popular in the English court and also much respected as giving sound advice to the English king and upholding chivalric values. Now with his friend and monarch restored to the throne, William, with his newfound wealth, commenced on a programme of building. The manorial roll, that being Ashby Manor's account books, dated 1472 to 1473, details the diverse great works within the manor and the wages of carpenters, tilers, masons, plumbers and other artificers and their servants were being employed to build up the site to reflect William's status. The works at Kirby Muxloe, however, did not commence until 1480, despite William being able to fund both projects simultaneously. The works at Ashby were still ongoing at the commencement of Kirby, and I would suggest then as a possible reason for the later start with Kirby was that to retain consistency in his manners, William used the same builders for both sites, only moving them from Ashby to Kirby once their job was completed at the initial site. It is also known that the master mason John Cowper worked at Kirby, but the records of the master mason at Ashby are now gone. Like the workforce then, it is not too much to suggest that Cowper was also the master mason for Ashby. In 1483, 3 years after the work at Kirby had started, King Edward IV died at the age of 40. Knowing that King Edward had left an heir, also called Edward, William's position should have remained secure. After all, he had been close to the king and generally held in good esteem. However, the new king, Edward V, although never actually crowned but still canonically counted, was only 12 years old when his father died. And in his father's will, King Edward had named his brother, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, as Lord Protector until young Edward could be crowned. However, for reasons that are almost certainly now never to be known for sure, Lord Protector Richard, Duke of Gloucester, decided that he should have the crown in place of his nephew. It is not unreasonable to assume that Richard must have been hoping for this fortuitous circumstance, since after King Edward's death he acted quickly to eliminate those close to the old and new king. And despite having previously been on good terms with William Hastings, Richard, now all but king in name, due to the uncrowned Edward V and his brother being secured in the Tower of London, accused William, and probably rightly so, of treason. And not wanting a drawn-out trial with the possibility that William might be found not guilty, Richard took measures into his own hands and had William summarily executed on the 13th of June 1483.